Good morning, this is Eva. I'm going to be talking about spiritual warfare today and go over demonic possession. I can't believe I'm saying that, but yeah, I'm going to get into that. And I'm going to talk about mental health disorders, again with Saul, and definitely Pharaoh and the plagues of Egypt. And, then we'll just see how much we have time. If we throw in Jezebel there, maybe. We'll see. All right. So, sorry I've been offline. I had like a flu laryngitis thing for like 2.5 weeks. So I've been out of commission, but I think I'm good to go now. Anyway. So, the first one I wanted to get into was, I guess we'll start with Pharaoh and the 10 plagues. It's a good starting point. Okay, so, everybody pretty much knows the story, but there's a lot people don't know about it also. I did go over the scripture for it because I thought in my memory that God had hardened Pharaoh's heart because he would not let the Israelites go, the slaves. But when I went back and looked at it, God does harden his heart later on, but at the beginning, it's just saying Pharaoh's doing that to himself. Like, twice it says he hardens his own heart. So, it's not so much like, because the way I remembered it, I was like, so like if God made him be like this stubborn, and hard-headed, then it was like, can you go back and then truly hold him accountable if, a supernatural force made him that way? But that's not what happened. It's kind of buried in the scripture, but it's like Pharaoh did that all by himself. He definitely, I don't know if he was a malignant narcissist. I don't know what you would call him exactly. He didn't have the paranoia that Saul had. Saul would definitely be more considered the paranoid personality disorder in the cluster B category. Whereas with Pharaoh, he has his sound mind. He's not, it's more like he's just, he doesn't consider other people. He thinks he's his own God. When confronted with anybody telling him what to do or, trying to make his decisions unilaterally for him, like he won't even like listen to anybody else. And even like when Moses and his brother Aaron's talking, because remember Moses has like a lisp or a disability, like he can't talk properly. And actually he kind of begged God not to make him the chosen one for that mission, because he didn't understand like how he would ever accomplish it. He thought he would fail miserably and embarrass, God and himself, really, because he had a speech impediment, and he didn't have like the gift of gab. Like he was not good at he was a very good leader, very good at like stirring people up, directing them, and he's excellent at making it clear, the instructions from God exactly how they were. With he could lay it down, but he was just better with like facts. He was not good at, like, I guess, getting in depth. He was not a charmer. He was not a wordsmith or whatever. So he had Aaron, his brother, accompany him into Egypt, and then he would basically tell Aaron what he wanted said, and Aaron would then do it. So, and then one of the things that happened was, like, they weren't getting anywhere with Pharaoh at all. And so then Moses threw his staff down on the ground, and it turned into a snake, because God made it do that. And that was supposed to be like supernatural miracle, and sort of get Pharaoh to, like, sort of realize, like, okay, this is not your average, like, just somebody trying to, be the boss over you. It's like, this is actually, like, divine intervention, and, like, something, like, supernatural's going on. And then, like, the assumption would be, of course, that Pharaoh would, be impressed, or he would have, like, a fear of God, which Pharaoh never has until, like, I think the last plague. He has, like, frustration with God, or I guess rebellion with God, but I would not say he had fear of God, because he was just so convinced that he was basically the God of Egypt himself. Like, he just couldn't, like, drop his control long enough to even entertain the idea that, one, that there was another God besides the gods of Egypt. And if there was, which, clearly there was for the Jews, he didn't think they were greater than Egypt at all, and thought it would be, they had multiple gods in Egypt, so it'd be like, how could one God against all these other gods, persevere? But what ended up happening is the first plague came because God wanted to, I guess, show his strength and might, and that he was the only God. And so one thing I didn't know that I learned, like, going through all this studying, is the different, like, animals or insects that were, placed, why he picked certain ones, was actually all correlated with Egyptian gods, which I never knew, which is ridiculous, because I have, like, an Isis tattoo, and I thought I'd do some stuff about Egypt, but no, I didn't know that. So I felt stupid when I found that out. I was like, oh, okay, of course I knew that, but I didn't. So, like, the blood, the Nile turning to blood, that was the first one. That didn't have anything to do with, well, that actually did, because Pharaoh would go down to the water, to the Nile, which was supposed to be, like, the lifeblood of Egypt, if there was ever any, like, droughts or anything, it was like the Nile was their source of what, like, that never went dry. So he would go down to the water to actually communicate or give offerings to some of the gods. And in fact, like, scripturally, I think it talked about Aaron and Moses doing that snake trick out. Well, it's not a trick, it's like a real snake. It's not magic. But they went and did it they went by the Nile traveling, and they ran into Pharaoh by the water because he was doing some kind of ceremony or preparing something. But I thought that was weird because it's like, I've seen multiple paintings of this. Like, I'm kind of an art history buff, and like, that's always in the palace. I've never once seen anything by the water, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, so first, it's all blood, so of course all the fish die, and obviously nobody can bathe in there or, you know, collect water or, you know, wash in it, or like, you can't do anything in it. It's like actual blood. So that's a giant problem because it's like Egypt is massive and they don't have, their water source is compromised. So that's the first one. Then the second one is frogs, and it's like millions of frogs, or hundreds, I don't know. But they're all like in people's houses and in their food dishes, in their beds, and, you know, like everywhere you go, in your closet, wherever you are, like there's frogs in there. And the thing that's kind of crazy is, sorry, my hair is ridiculous because I had insomnia, so I woke up. It looks crazy. Anyway, turns out one of the fertility gods, I'm not going to remember the name, had the head of a frog. Like, if you've ever looked at like Egyptian gods and goddesses, a lot of them are like, I guess kind of like minotaurs, where they're like half human, half animal. So that this fertility goddess had a frog head is like not very surprising. So that's why the first one was frogs, because God wanted to target, you know, their main gods that they worshipped. And then the other problem with that is, like, I don't know if you've ever heard about, like, in India, like, people could be like hungry and there's like cattle walking around, like making hamburgers with the cattle, because in India it's forbidden. Like, the cows are supposed to be like almost like a sacred deity. So the same thing is in Egypt with frogs, apparently. So nobody can, well, I mean, I guess they can, but like, at first the people are not killing the frogs, even though they're everywhere in their residence and in their garden and, you know, everything they try to do. But they're just like trying to throw them out or throw them away, you know, as fast as they can. But they're trying not to kill them because of that would be sacrilegious. So what I think eventually they, you know, they just lose it and they start doing it, because supposedly there's like heaps of dead frogs all over the place, and the place stinks, Egypt. Which is actually supposed to be a really gorgeous, ornamental, like amazing, archaeological, obviously, place. So God hits them where it hurts. Then the next one is, it's either gnats or flies. I don't remember which one's first, but those are both in order pretty quickly. And I'm pretty sure one of the gods, I don't know if it's, I mean, Beelzebub, I don't know if I'm saying that right. I know that's one that has parts of a fly on it, but I think that there's some god that's got something to do with flies. And then there's hail, then a bunch of the weather ones happen, and darkness, like it just goes pitch black. There's no like moon or sun or anything. Just, they're in darkness. And then, of course, the worst one is the last one, which is killing the firstborn male of every household under the age of 2. I think that's it. And so the Israelites, they slaughter lambs, and then the blood of the lamb is put on they mark their doorways. So when the angel of death or whoever comes and takes the children, they don't go to the Israelites' house. And then the Israelites actually are living in a place called Goshen, which is nearby. And one of the things God does is he makes sure there's none of the frogs, infestations of any of the creatures, none of them are in Goshen. Like, it's completely safe and normal. Because he wants to make it clear, like, these are my people. You know, like, a clear distinction between the Egyptians and the Israelites. So, and then I believe that Pharaoh loses a son. Oh, I have to double check that because I also saw the movie, and you know, sometimes movies and facts are not equal. But the main thing about Pharaoh, though, is he just gets more. At different times, he says, "Okay." I think it's the frogs. The frogs, or so, you know, like. At some point, he's like, "I can't take it. Like, make it stop." And he makes a deal. You know, he has Moses talk to God, and it does stop. But then Pharaoh, he, like, I don't know if he's like lying, like purposely, or if like he just can't give someone else any kind of dominion over what he considers himself, like I said, he considers himself, it's like Apocalypse Now, he considers himself the God of the people, you know, and so he takes it back, and he does this, like, I think 2 or 3 times. It's like, I think at one point, like, Moses and Aaron want to go do some kind of prayer or sacrifice or something of an animal, like, to the Judeo-Christian God, but they have to leave the area of Egypt, and I think Pharaoh uses that as one of his opportunities to say they're allowed, you know, he's totally backing down so that they'll stop the plague. But then as soon as they, you know, as soon as they're out of his sight, he turns around and changes his mind. So let me just make sure I got all of them. Let's see. Oh, the livestock. The livestock all gets killed. Pestilence. Boils. Oh, locusts. Yeah, that's a big one. I got the rest of them right. So, there was, like, something in Africa, like, I think it was Africa. I don't remember which part of Africa. I mean, it's a huge continent. But, where they were having all these sightings of swarms of locusts, like biblical almost swarms. And there was, like, some scientific reason behind it, but I know it totally was like, I saw that and I was like, what the hell? Okay, so boils. Yeah, they all got sores and boils on their skin at one point before the hail and the locusts. And that was, like, even worse because it was, like, not just something invading your home, but it's actually invading your body. Like, you're in physical pain. So, but yeah, it wasn't until he loses his son, or the last the last plague, where God has proved that he's, he has Egypt under his thumb, really, that they, this thing here, blood and the Nile challenge Happy, Hapi, which is one of their gods, and darkness challenged Ra, which I've heard of Ra before. And then it lists all the different gods that go with each different plague. So Pharaoh is just like Saul, like Nebuchadnezzar. There's Herod. I did a bunch of research on Herod. Like all of them are listed as having hardened hearts. Like they are completely resistant to, like they can't change, basically. Like they double down, and whatever characteristics they already had of being very, like, not wanting to listen to other people, not wanting to consider anybody else's opinion, not wanting to, like, they're going to be in control, and there's, even if they have to sneak around and do it, like Pharaoh kind of did, where he, like, said he agreed, and then as soon as, they were out of his sight, he would go back. And he'd sort of undo it, and then, But anyway, those are the ones in the Bible who are marked as they shut off any chance of renewal, or like God can, if they asked to be reunited with him, and they wanted to, were sincerely apologize and wanted to move towards God and have him soften their heart, like that would be something God would do, like, but none of them asked for that, so that's just not, Saul is like, he's not even, like, if you've ever been around somebody who, I don't know, was on drugs or anything, where it's like or was mentally ill, and it's like they cannot be reasoned with. Like, they're paranoid, and like there's nothing, like even like somebody on bath salts, like there's nothing you could ever convince them that there's another way of thinking besides theirs. Like, that is, like, not gonna ever happen, ever. Like, they are truly overcome with whatever mental disorder or drug that they're on. Like, it's literally changed them almost like at an organic level, where it's like they cannot be reasoned with. They're not of sound mind anymore. Like, they have given themselves over to whatever that is, and that is deciding for them, basically. It's like the person that you knew that you could reason with, or even if you were a caretaker or a healthcare worker or what, or doctor, what, like, there's nobody to talk to make reasonable decisions, because they're literally like, they're convinced everyone's against them, and there's only their way of thinking, and there's nothing else. And I did do some more research on narcissism and the origin of it, and actually Freud had written a paper about it, which I was like, okay, I didn't know that. Never heard that, but okay. Or a book or something. I was like, really? Wow. How interesting. But I also went over the myth of narcissist and echo, and like how the word came to be narcissist. And it started from a curse, just like a Sleeping Beauty fairy tale where the baby's cursed at the beginning, that if she's going to, at a certain age, prick her finger on a spindle. Actually, the whole narcissism thing, it was a curse that was put on the baby, which it's like, it was like a pre-story in Greek mythology that I had never heard of before. But it's like the mother of Narcissus was like cradling him, and she was like, I guess they were somewhere where there was like a seer or something, and her and her husband, and she asked, is my son gonna be happy? Is he gonna have a happy life? And like whoever was there, you know, they did their like looking into the future, and I kind of like don't want to tell her, but it's like, well, like, as long as he never really you know, focuses too much on like himself, he'll be okay. But you know, it's just like he says something really weird, and they're just like, what the heck does that mean? And what it means is that eventually, the whole myth of a narcissist is that it's unrequited love. Like, Echo falls in love with him, and then another young man on the island falls in love with him before Echo, the female nymph, water nymph, falls in love with him. And this guy, like, narcissist, he's not interested in anybody at all, like, romantically whatsoever. He likes the attention, he likes the flattery, but he doesn't love any of them back. And I guess this young man is so horrified when he finds out that he will never be his love interest, that he takes his own sword out and he stabs himself in the heart with it and dies. And when he does that, there's like some goddess, I don't know if Hera sees it, but there's this other deity, which I've also read about before, but it's like, her job is to basically just like make sure there's order in the universe and like everything's fair. And when she sees this young man committing suicide, she's like, what the hell, you know, like, why is this happening? And she finds out that it's because of Narcissus. Am I saying his name wrong? And so she goes and sort of checks out what's going on there, and she finds out that Hera has put a curse on Echo, so she can only echo people's last words of the sentences that they're saying to her. Like, she can never talk normally again. So of course, like, Narcissus is freaked out by her because she like steals his tunic or something when he's bathing. So, and then, you know, like, she's trying to flirt with him, but it was like a disaster. And when he finally comes out of the water, he says something like, don't ever talk to me again, or like, don't ever come near me again, or something. He's really mean. And so she becomes like bereft and like destitute. And so then this angel, fairy, whatever she is, who's like does divine justice, she sees this episode, and so she decides she's going to Hera had cursed Echo. She's going to curse him so that he learns what it's like to be in love with somebody who doesn't return the love or affection back. Because he's supposed to be very, like, kind of cold hearted, they say. And then at one point, it's like super narcissist. His eyes turn like black when he gets angry, which is like, okay, that's like totally okay, a sign there. But so he is cursed to be in love with himself. So he like finds his image in the water. Like he's leaning over to take a drink, and then he sees himself, and it's the first time he's ever seen himself, his reflection. And then he falls in love with himself, and he starts calling himself beloved. And then when he tries to lean down to kiss himself, like the water dissipates, and like he can't love himself because like, it's a reflection, it's not real. So that's the whole thing about, that's why they did that to him, so that he would know. And then he actually, I think he ends up like trying to find himself to I don't know, like embrace himself, but he ends up falling in the water and drowning, so he dies. So then the whole thing sort of comes full circle. But I guess what they had been trying to say to him, I mean his mother at the beginning, was that just don't let him, I guess, get to know himself or spend time with himself. Like they were trying to say, keep him away from basically becoming obsessed with himself. But it's like they don't just blurt that out, they just say it in this weird way that like nobody understands it. So, but that's his fate, and that's where the word narcissist actually comes from. And then it was also mentioned in some other book that's pretty old. I want to say the 1500s, but narcissism wasn't, I think, fully used in psychiatry. I want to say the 70s, but I don't know. I have to double check that one. Anyway, I'm gonna end this video, and I'll make a separate one about the demonic possession and spiritual warfare. I mean, I have more to say about the hardening of the heart and Saul and Jezebel, but this is getting too long, so